So, good morning, everyone. Lovely to be with you. I hope this morning you can hear and see me all right. I'm going to talk about letting go a little bit more, but first of all, let's do the usual housekeeping. You find the chat box with all the lovely good mornings here from all over the world, and quite a pleasure to be with you all. And if you have any questions when you can't hear me well, if the screen is freezing, if you run into any technical issues, please just use the chat box and someone might be able to help you with, or I might be able to help you with. Okay. Also, if there are any questions from yesterday, so you might have practiced a bit with this theme of nothing worth clinging to, and some resistances, some questions, some impulses came up and you would like to share, please put them into the chat box. You might want to put some capital letters to it so that I can't find it, something like question or reflection in big letters, and then I'm happy to reflect on that in the last third of our session. So I'm going to share a bit of my understanding of letting go for about 15 minutes, and then we go into meditation. And at the end, we have about another 15 minutes to share with each other upon this practice. Okay. And in the end, you will see the link to potential donations for you to consider either today or any time during the week, whether you can or are able to support these sessions. Okay, great. Let's dive into the question I had yesterday, which I said we would need to consider, is we talk a lot about letting go, but my honest question is, shouldn't we ask first another question about how to let go of, how do I let go of this, and how do I let go of that? Shouldn't we first ask the question, what should we actually let go of? And I know that feels sometimes so clear and so obvious, and a lot of the time when I look closer, it isn't. Yeah, we run into some traps of our polarizing either or mind, so that this question, what should I actually let go of, becomes an important one. And I just make a couple of examples, and you can extend that to examples in your life. Of course, we find clinging in all areas of our lives. That can be practice. We had the question yesterday, should I let go of my meditation practice? And the usual answer, it depends. It depends upon your relation to your meditation practice. How is it feeling? Are there aspects of having to become someone, having to do good, having to do the right thing, having to have a certain experience? Yeah, we find this also in our relationships with others. Yeah, there are beautiful things in love and in relationship and in relationship to the children and in romantic relationships and in friendships. And there are aspects of relationships, maybe we name them passion or desire for another one, forms of intense care, sorrow, which might feel confusing, might feel burdensome. But does this really mean we should let go of the relationship? To say, whoa, this feels like clinging, goodbye. Yeah. I wonder whether this form of letting go is the appropriate one. And then there are other aspects in our lives, like goals and ambitions and working towards something and appreciation for an accomplishment or such things. And they easily trip over into some form of clinging and contraction and having to become and having to be someone. But should we then stop trying to get something done and work towards something altogether? Yeah. So you see, what I'm talking about this morning is a lot about the black and white mind this way around. a black and white mind which says either or, either in relationship or not in relationship, either trying to get something done and then become a bit clingy and intense around it. And when I notice that, I say, okay, I'm done trying to get that. I'm done trying to work towards that. Yeah. So same with all the self-improvement and optimization thoughts. There can be quite a lot of push and urge in that. I have to become better. I have to become a different version of myself. But does that, on the other hand, mean that not to cling to that means I stop trying? I stop trying to suffer less, to lighten up, to make room, make space more for happiness and freedom and ease in my life. Yeah, because that could tipple over. Yeah, and it will regularly tipple over into forms of self-improvement and optimization. Yeah. So this question of what should we let go of is honestly also a question of finding the middle way again. Yeah, away from this either or, back to, well, what's the appropriate, what's a healthy, what's a conducive way of relating to this theme, the relationship, the goal, the wish for myself to develop a certain capacities or skills or abilities, and even in relationship to pain and suffering and sadness. This can happen to us. There are unpleasant experiences in our lives, and the clinging, contracting mind will often just say, well, if I try hard enough, I can eradicate the pain, the suffering, the sadness, the irritation, that which makes me feel afraid, that which makes me feel unstable, confused. I can overcome sickness and illness. And now we have books which are called How Not to Die. So there is at least in the title, the book is, I find a quite interesting one, but the title is of such a kind that it induces the thought in our minds, well, to say, well, there is something wrong about dying. I should be able, if I do the right things, I should be able to overcome that too. Well, good luck with that. You see, so the clinging mind will say, there is something wrong about this suffering and pain. There is something wrong about this ouch in my life, and if I try hard enough, I can make it stop. Yeah. Or I can compensate for it so much that I don't need to feel it anymore. And that is the clinging. Yeah. But to fall into the other extreme of to say, well, that is just human life, and we're all just suffering along, and it's all about enduring that very well. I would say that is the other opposite. Yeah. So we let go of the clinging and we fall right into the other extreme. And I can watch my mind trying to do that all day long. That is ouch. Okay, I do the opposite of ouch. That is irritating me. I do the opposite of. I want the opposite of what is irritating me. And so we swing like a pendulum. And I have really a concern when we talk about letting go, that if we don't look very well into this movement, we just keep the pendulum swinging. Yeah. So this morning is all dedicated to the middle way. The Buddha asked a beautiful question. He didn't say let go of everything. Yeah, just let go of everything. He more marked it as a natural process of asking, where is the pain? Where is the problem? Where is the dukkha? Yeah, where is the dukkha? And then to start a process of exploration. People come to me and say, well, there is so much I could change in my life about my relationships and about how I communicate and so many aspects and characteristics about myself. And then there is life with all its bumps in the road. There is just so much, but where should I start? Yeah, it feels a little overwhelming. And I imagine myself, the Buddha answering to them, to saying, well, where is the dukkha? Where is the biggest dukkha at the moment? And to start there. And this for me is a question of care, It's a situative question, so it asks, where's the dukkha right now, right here? Yeah, where can you feel it? Where is it impacting you? And it's not so much a question of ideals and optimization, about holding all those blueprints against us and saying, okay, this I should become, this my life should be, this is how I should look like and feel like, and etc. And this is how the world should be in others, and so on and so on. Yeah. It's asking a very situative question, saying, dear one, where are you hurting right now? And when we discover then a dynamic, where there is tension and agitation, suffering and trouble and pain and restlessness, I find it interesting to ask two more questions. To think, oh, there is some trouble, there is some dukkha. Now let me have a good look. Is the dukkha inherent in the experience? Which means, is just the experience in itself problematic, challenging, painful? And yes, there are a few. I'm not a fan of saying, oh, you just change your perspective and you just change how you relate to things, and then you can relate to everything. You will be fine with everything. No, I'm not. I don't think we're supposed to be fine with everything. There are some aspects and some contexts and some dynamics which are just, in and by themselves, inherently painful. And in talking about clinging, I would say, let's think about drugs. Let's think about drugs and deeply ingrained addictions. Painful. Let's think about harmful and abusive relationships and violence in all forms. There is no good reason to say to people, well, you're in this abusive relationship, but if you just change your perspective on that and cling a little less, you will make it. It will become easy. I would say that would be irresponsible to tell this to people. So yes, there are things where dukkha is inherent in the experience, and other problems and challenges in your lives, other ouchies and bumps on the road, you will notice, oh, some of the dukkha is in the way I relate to the experience. And sometimes the dukkha in this form of how I relate to this experience is the one dukkha I can actually change. Not immediately and not by finger snipping and not by command, but it's that which I can, let's say, have the most co-creative space around, whereas others and the world and the weather and even my body and even my emotions, far less controllable. But the way to relate to something, this shift of perspective, this fresh way of looking, might be something I can actually do in this very moment. So, if you remember what the Buddha said yesterday, I love this phrase, this little phrase, there is nothing worth clinging to. There is nothing worth making a home in. There's nothing worth insisting on. There's nothing worth getting fixated in or around. I wish to remember this phrase as a very caring one. For me, the message is, and that's my personal interpretation, whatever there is, whatever challenge there is no need to relate in a way to this challenge and to this experience which creates additional tension, additional stress, additional pain, additional agitation. And this is an insight. It doesn't immediately lead for me into letting go. But it's the first fierce flicker of compassion coming back into my life. Saying, ouch, there is an ouch in my life. There is a friction, there is a hunger, a push and a pull. And to say, wait a moment, dear one. Independently of whether I have or don't have this in my life, whether this is going to be fulfilling or support me or not, whether this is going to work out or not, in this very moment I'm suffering because of the additional stress and pain and tension in relationship to that. And then a healthy confidence over the years, and maybe with more and more practice, a healthy confidence arises in saying, well, I can't see it yet. I don't know what to do yet, but there must be surely a different way to relate to this. A different way which causes a little less stress and pain. And that is a question almost to go pregnant with. What would be the way to relate to this, which causes a little less? Let's not go for the ideal of saying no suffering, but a way to relate which causes a little less stress and pain. What could that be? What do I need for that? And this then becomes an inquiry for my own heart mind to say, dear heart mind, what do we need? What do we need to have this open question, this open conflict, this challenge in my life right now, and to relate to it with a little less stress and pain? And the heart might say, well, I would need to know that I'm safe, even if this is in my life. I would know that I'm well connected, that I'm held by a supportive network of some sort, even though I have this conflict in my life, and so on and so on. I would need to know that I can bear the challenge on the problematic and the pain, that I'm not going to crumble. I would need to know that I will see beauty again and joy in my life. So this becomes almost a form of communication, where the heart mind starts to tell me, well, if this is going to be a thing, and I stop to push and cling and contract and get, the heart almost opens up in a request to say, well, if I need to accommodate that for a while, to get back clarity and calm and ease, I would need a bit of support here. And you remember, maybe someone said it in our meditation practice yesterday, when we got aware of the bracing, the habitual armor we carry around in our bodies, and I soften that. The request from the heart mind opens up and says, oh, I have this bracing habit for a reason. It makes me feel safe. It makes me feel competent. It makes me feel ready to go into action. If you want me to soften that, I have an open question. How am I going to be safe? And this is where the letting go process starts. So letting go for me, I have this image from one of my teachers, Jill Fronsdale. For me, the either or, which I talked about earlier, is either clinging around something very tensely until the knuckles turn white. And then we notice, oh, ouch, this is hurting, and maybe we're not gonna get anywhere with that, so we throw it away. So this is usually our understanding, either to cling very closely around something, or when we notice this isn't going to work for us, this is simply too painful or too much of an effort, we throw it away, or we drop. So Jill showed me, or showed us once, to say, well, we notice the clinging, and the heart does this movement. The heart mind does this movement all of the time, in stronger and less intense forms. So we notice the closed heart, the closed hand, and then rather than trying to drop it, and sometimes we even try to help it to drop a bit, to say, allow the hand to, or it's more this very gentle unwrinkling of the heart. And then we have this in our lives. We have space around it. We have openness around it. It's still there. Now it's able to transform. Now it's able to fly away. Now it's able to go. If it's ready to go, if it's time to go. Well, so but I have openness around it anymore. This is for me the movement of letting go. It's nothing to do with throwing away or dropping or dismissing. It's there, an aspect of the dukkhas in our lives, but I have stopped contracting around it. Good. So, couple of ideas for you to explore today. Can you, first of all, that's where it starts, to notice any form of contraction, tension, drive, or compulsion. Just notice this obsession, urge, push and pull within. Trust in your body, to notice that, and see whether Well, you can just be aware of this clinging heart, that there is so much gain in just noticing that. And then just this little question to say, well, how do I want to relate to whatever is bringing up the clinging? Do I really need to relate this way? Or is there any other idea, just a shift of perspective, just a step backwards maybe? What would my heart, mind need in order to relate in a different way? If I don't go all in, if I don't circle around that so much, what would the heart mind need to know, or in what ways would it need to be nourished and supported in order to relate differently? And maybe you notice in the smaller things of your life that sometimes you don't have to change a thing, but you can make tremendous difference by just relating differently than you habitually do. So just remember that you have options to relate. You could relate differently. Okay. So this was my contribution for this morning. Let's talk about some of these aspects later, but maybe we just explore a bit of the clinging movement in our meditation and see whether we can soften around it a tiny bit together, a little less dukkha for all of us this morning. So come to sitting or standing or lying down, whatever you prefer. You could walk, you could go up and down if you have a safe place to do so. And allow your body some rest, some time to arrive in the posture you chose for it. When you settled into your posture a little bit, we allow the attention, the awareness to roam around in a very broad scenery. We just kindly invite it to stay here and now. But it could be everything from sounds to something you see, to something you touch, something within the body, and even those initiatory thoughts, like thought about later in the day, thought about yesterday. Just this impulse of a thought popping up like mushrooms do in autumn. And then just to notice that, thought about something. Well, not getting entangled with it, not to think about the thought, but this thought belongs to this moment as well. So do your emotions, your tensions. And when you notice there is a thread about yesterday or what is still to come, gently bring it back with the words here and now. What can we find here and now, dear mind? You might notice how it roams, maybe like a wild animal who goes after the scent, goes here and there, looks at bodily expression, looks at the sensual impression, and just follow it. allowing it to freely roam in all experience which belong to this moment. After a while, you might notice how it's drawn. The attention can be drawn to certain things. Maybe it is a thought about yesterday or the past, about later in the day or the future. And there is something maybe a little fascinating, either about this thought, or maybe it's a niggle or a pain in the body. It's fascinating in a positive or in a rather unpleasant way. Unpleasantness can also be fascinating to the mind. It's calling, it's alluring. And you notice how the attention goes again and again to that. Or when a little boredom flares up in our meditation, the mind wanders to these places where it finds a little gratification. And for now, we just very simply try to call it back. Here and now, dear mind. Here and now, dear heart. What else belongs to this moment? And now let's take one of the smaller niggles, maybe in your body or in your just present experience. Maybe it's a sound outdoors, which is a little unpleasant to hear. Maybe it's this pressure, small anxiety, a small one, a small pressure to get up and get going. Maybe it's an echo from yesterday. Anything small, please don't overwhelm yourself. And just bring this little experience of dukkha, of unsatisfactory experience, into the field of your awareness. And just see what happens when we try to hold that there with the gentle, within the gentle eyes of mindfulness. What happens? And ask yourself, what do you need to be present for that? What do you need to be relatively calm, relatively easeful, present with that? Would you need more space around the experience? Are you leaning too much in, creating too much intensity by being close to it? Would you need to be aware that there are other things in your peripheral awareness as well? There is still a room around you and your entire body. And there is this small dukkha you chose to observe. But do you need to notice a bit that this experience of dukkha, it's flickering a bit. It's not that stable and fixed as the mind might assume. Maybe you can notice it flickering a bit in its intensity, in its presence. Maybe it's shifting a bit from foreground into background of awareness. Different levels of intensity and presence. And you could even create that by being present for it and then creating room around it, experiencing something else within your range of experience, and then turning to it again. On and off, on and off. Maybe you notice that one thing which makes this experience challenging is that it comes with a story. It comes with a small addition saying something about you or your well-being, something about who you are, something about your character or who you were or who you will be in the future, how you will be in the future. Just have a look whether there is the smallest of narratives around that. Oh, this feels unpleasant and I will be feeling unpleasant in the future, and I just can't think of being able to bear that for so long. And what happens if you shift your perspective on this experience and saying, well, this is a guest in my house of experience. It's here for now. Maybe it stays a little longer, but it doesn't say anything about me or my future or my well-being or my past. It's not me. It's not who I am. It's not mine. Maybe you notice what happens if the storyline softens a bit and it's just that, an unpleasant experience. No need to negate that. There is a little dukkha and friction in your experience right now. And your task is not to make that go away. That is an endless task. But to see whether you can peel off any additional layers of tension bracing against that, forcing that away. This is why we use a small dukkha to train with. Until it's that, an unpleasant experience. And maybe now there is some room or compassion in the heart to say, wow, it's quite something to be a human with this body and this mind, so sensitive and so reactive, always touched by things and impressions and thoughts and memories. And to have a mind which wants to keep us safe and thus reacts to all those things and wants to make it right and better and improve and make it go away. And not clinging to something doesn't mean we don't care for it. We can turn towards that niggle, that small dukkha, and really hold it. The Buddha said, holding it in two tender, caring hands, as if holding a fragile bird. This is how we can hold the niggle in these tender, caring hands of the mindfulness. To fully acknowledge, yes, this is unpleasant. No, this is not easy. Even the small niggle isn't easy. And then we very consciously say thank you, even if it's not solved, even if it's not dissolved, even if it's still there very much. There comes a time when we say thank you, and we have attended to it enough for this moment to bring our attention back into other areas of our body. Hello feet, hello hand. Consciously feeling into the contact points with the earth. Maybe following along the breath for 2 or 3 cycles. And then slowly, slowly starting to move this body, starting to take a couple of deeper inhales and exhales. Stretch and yawn. Waking up to this day once more. And when you feel ready, you can come back to the screen. Great. So that was practice of maybe finding the smallest of niggles. That's why I really said tread carefully with yourself. Take something small to practice with. And to just see whether you can tap into the relationship with this niggle and see what allows you to be able to be present for it, and whether there is anything in relationship to this niggle which adds on an extra layer of tension and stress and pain. And you might want to put into the chat box now anything you discovered, and even if it's for things which weren't easy. We don't only share the successes here, and there are no real failures, they're just explorations and insights. So please share with me what you discovered in your practice. Anita made already a reflection I'm going to respond to. How more I want to let go, the more tension or fear arise. Yeah, I guess that this is not the right moment trying to let go. So there is something already very interesting in your response, Nita. There is a very fine line between a wise, calm intention out of a sense of care to soften around something, to make this movement. Yeah, that's a caring movement because the hand is so tense. And aversion. Yeah, and feeling irritated by the mind clinging to something. We all know that when we settle into meditation and the mind won't stop thinking. Yeah, I want to let go of these thoughts. And while we call it letting go, it really is aversion. I don't want this, I can't bear this, I can't stand this has to go. You know, and then the pushing away and the probing and the pulling, all that starts. So sometimes we need to pause and say, well, if it's an act of caring, if it's an act of softness, it could pause and be with that for a moment. Yeah, just taking the shoulder pain for an example, Nita. If I desperately want to make the shoulder pain go away, I will move, I will stretch, I will breathe into it, I will work hard with it, and it's rubbing against it all of the time. If it's an act of care, the movement is slower. Yeah, it's more of saying, okay, how can I hold that before I start working with it or start to explore it? Just make presence for it and hold it. Yeah, and the clinging to the letting go. You know, that is a phrase. The clinging to the letting go is usually a very impulsive saying, I have to let it go. I want this to be gone. Yeah. Let me know, Nita, if this makes any sense for you. Sue is writing, when I stopped trying to change the niggle, there was a lot of softness around it. Beautiful. That is what I just talked about. Stop trying to change, yeah, to come out of this clinging of letting go, yeah, and saying, well, can I first of all pause? Can I make myself allowed to have a pause from the endless attempt to make this different from what it is? Yeah, and then there might come the nourishment and the peacefulness we need for clarity, for looking at it, for understanding it, for exploring it further. Beautiful. Ruth is writing, making space around the experience rather than pushing it away or dropping it is a beautiful movement of the heart. Thank you. Yeah, and we all know that. We all have probably most of you have experienced that. And another mystery of the letting go process is that we need to remind ourselves. Yeah, need to remind ourselves to stop pushing it away, stop trying to drop it. Let me hold it for a moment and experience the openness and the release, the unburdening in the holding it. Yeah, so that is something we talk in Dharma circles quite a lot about, and it's something the mind consciously needs to be reminded of because this clinging movement is so deeply ingrained within us. Okay. Maddie is writing, I woke up feeling resentment behind my pattern of thoughts. I decided to go for a cycle ride to help me wake up. I still feel the resentment, then anger. I still felt the resentment, then anger, then humiliation. I felt embodied in noticing. Beautiful. Now this sounds like something really healthy to me. We wake up feeling the resentment, and then the clinging almost like crystallizes, hardens, also the emotional process. Yeah. But then to go for the ride and waking up, all that brought movement back into the experience, and then something in the emotion flew through, yeah, from the resentment into the anger, and then into humiliation, yeah, and then the wave can go through. Now, if you, for example, in this process of resentment, anger, humiliation, Maddie, would have got stuck around the anger, clinging to some image of I'm not an angry person, yeah, and then we have a new crystallization, the process got stuck again, yeah. So this unstucking and allowing the wave almost to flow through, yeah, is another thing. We kind of experience waves of emotion. It's not letting go doesn't mean you blob into peacefulness. Sometimes letting go means you are now ready and able and nourished and resourced enough to ride the wave. Yeah. Beautiful example. Thank you, Maddie. Now, Anita, there's the response. It just makes sense what you're saying. Oh, that's glad. I'm glad to hear that. Accepting the fear intention instead of willing to let it go. Yeah. And now accepting the fear intention, that's difficult as well. I could ramble on forever, but accepting something is another process and nothing you can decide. It's preparing your heart and mind, resourcing yourself so that you can tap into fear and tension, hold it for a little while, yeah, and then withdrawing from it, resourcing, calming, stilling again until you move in again. Yeah, so in, out, rather than to say, I'm going to try to endure it. Yeah, and endurance and acceptance can be confused with each other quite a lot. Now, Lissy is writing, I noticed the pain in my lower back and the worry that I be able to make the large construction that's so important to me today. The only day, etc. Yeah, it's tight, contracted. I try to soften around it, the pain continues. Then I remember Christopher's suggestion of breathing in life, opening the chest, shift to focus. Yeah, the joy of the breath. The pain in the back doesn't seem to be forefront, something just in the background, a tool, an enjoyable one for this challenging, exciting day. Beautiful, Lissy. Now, this is such an important one. Letting go, we sometimes really think it, in this case, the back pain, it goes. You know, letting go, it's supposed to go. In your case, it didn't exactly go anywhere. It didn't end, but it shifted into the background of your attention. Yeah, it shifted into the background of your attention, and the heart mind can be at peace with this. It's okay to have it into the background. Some challenges and conflicts, they are just there in our lives. Yeah, but they don't need to be in the forefront, in the front of our face all of the time. If they shift into the background, I can handle them. And the same might be true with the back pain. Yeah, it might be even healthy to have the back pain in the background because it might remind you of overextending yourself, and might be a little reminder of the body to take it gently and caringly today. And this is where we can hold it. So beautiful. I'm glad that the shift of perspective with the breathing, yeah, that you didn't change anything about the back. It was a shift of perspective with the breathing which did the magic. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Lissy. Michael, it occurred to me that my thoughts have no selfhood and that meditation introduces a new, helpful condition that gives me a freer relationship to them. Yeah, great. That is such a magic moment there to say, whoa, thoughts are popping up like mushrooms all day long. And not every thought, if I don't give the thoughts the power to tell me who I am or what I'm supposed to do, but it's just that. It's just a little plant. It's just a little impulse shooting upwards. Yeah, a short form of energy, life energy, manifesting itself in a thought. But it's not true. It's not truth about you or what you need to do. And we can take it with this little calm. It's beautiful to take the selfhood, as you write, out of the thought. And then to see whether I actually want to do something with it or not. Great. Natalie's writing. Holding the ouch in the heart tenderly, as if a fragile bird, was very helpful. There was a softening and a release. Thank you for the in and out advice rather than enduring. Yes, so important. Both. So the power of the image, isn't it? To say, how do I relate to that? And sometimes we have no words and we have no feelings, but I was remembered of what Nita wrote earlier to say, basically the relationship is something about trying to push this away, trying to get this done, trying to drop it, trying to negate it, trying not to see it, whatever it is. And then I relate differently with a different image. So maybe that is something you can explore as well. What image helps me? Maybe this holding of the frail bird to relate to this ouch. Maybe you look for your own images and say, okay, this is an image which helps me to remind me of the relationship to the ouch, to the niggle, to the frustration, to the fear, to the anger, which incorporates, almost embodies for me a different way, a fresh way of relating and perspective. Great. Yeah, Nita's seconding this view that endurance and acceptance are different, and that sometimes we cling to the idea that we should endure, and we harm ourselves a lot. So as Jane wrote earlier, this in and out movement, very important. Acceptance comes through the capacity of, yes, I can hold that and I can be with that, and it's not going to damage and harm and overwhelm me. That is the quality of the power of acceptance almost. Before that, it's enduring. Yeah, and we don't want to overwhelm ourselves through enduring something. Lucy's writing, the thought that the back pain might have a function, be seen even as a kind of friend. Yeah, as a friendly reminder to be mindful physically. Yeah, as well as the rest. Yeah. So now we have a new perspective on the back pain. You see how we work with perspectives and fresh ways of looking, and how that way of looking at things has so enormous power. Yeah. Now the back pain has become from a nuisance, which might even stop you doing what you love to do today, towards a form of support system. That's in the course of an hour quite incredible what we can do with views and perspectives. Okay. So let's meet, while there are no further questions, see what we're going to do tomorrow. Oh yeah, very interesting one. Tomorrow we're going to ask, who is actually doing the clinging? Is it you who is clinging? And why on earth are you at the same time trying to let go? So who is the one clinging and who is the one letting go? And I hope that we can clarify a bit on this question, because we're going to talk a lot about guilt and shame around clinging and holding and letting go. Why am I not able to let this go? Why am I still clinging to that? Yeah. So this is what I'm going to explore tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here today and all your great questions and contributions and reflections. It was a pleasure as usual to be with you, and I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow. Thank you.